Hello guys. How are you all? We are Fanfic Adventure. So in this video we will see, what if the 4th Hokage never sealed the kyuubi into Naruto? But before we start, please like and subscribe our channel. It's the Yondaime. He's finally come to battle. We still have a chance at beating this monster. Keep fighting. That was the cry of a brave fighter that was fighting a losing battle. You see, he was fighting none other than the kyuubi no Kitsune, also known as the King of Hell, King of all demons, or the Nine-Tailed Fox. No one knows why the kyuubi just showed up one day, but it did, and when it did he suddenly attacked the village of Konohagakure, or the village hidden in the leaves. But it was not just one man that was fighting the demon lord himself. No, it was the entire ninja population of Konohagakure, or Konoha for short. Every available ninja was out on the battlefield risking their lives for the sake of their village and the people in it that were their family and friends. He's right. Keep fighting, the Yondaime will be here any minute now. Don't stop, attack. This was a yell from another one of those brave ninja out on the battlefield. The Yondaime, or the 4th Hokage of the village, was soon going to join the battle. The Hokage is the strongest person in the village. This particular cage was said to be unstoppable in a fight, and many shinobi had been told to run if they saw him. To know he was coming to the battle brought new vigor to the quickly losing battle. With the knowledge that their strongest would be coming made every ninja fight with all their power in them. And so the battle against the demon lord continued with a newfound will in them all. Suddenly, there was a huge cloud of smoke that took up the entire field for a good 300 feet distance. The smoke cleared and there stood the toad boss himself, the king of all toads, Gamabunta. And on him stood none other than the Yondaime Hokage himself, Namikaze Minato. The toad was huge to say the least. It stood tall at a good 250 feet tall, maybe more. It wore a shirt sort of thing with the kanji for toad on it. In his mouth was an equally huge pipe that he was smoking. Then there was the Yondaime himself. He stood there on top of the toad boss in all of his glory. He was a good 6 foot 4 inches tall. He had on your standard Junin vest that was green in color with pouches for scrolls on the front. He wore blue shinobi sandals, blue shinobi pants with shuriken and kunai pouches on each leg. He also had on a Konoha headband with the symbol of Konoha no Sato proudly worn on his forehead. He had long unruly blonde hair that spiked here and there that went just below his neckline. The last and most noticeable thing would be the white cape that he wore. It went from his shoulder blades all the way to just above his ankles. On the back was the kanji for yellow flash, and on the bottom were flames that seemed to be dancing. The Yondaime is here. Keep fighting. That was what Minato heard as he arrived on the battlefield. He saw the nine-tailed fox in all its glory. It stood even taller than Gamabunta did, not in height, but in length, and if you counted those 9 lethal tails of his that were swinging violently around, just waiting to destroy everything in its path, it would truly make a scary sight. This is what the Yondaime saw, the kyuubi, killing all of Konoha's ninja fervently and without mercy. There were dead bodies everywhere and even more wounded. That didn't count the people that the kyuubi just vaporized completely. How he stood in front of the kyuubi without even flinching was quite the feat, and only he could do it. Just as he was about to advance, he couldn't help but look back at the village behind him. It was his home and he would protect it with his life. That was the duty of a kage, or more importantly the duty of a father. You see, his only son was just born and he resided in the village behind him. He couldn't help but remember the last few days he had just gone through. Flashback 5 days earlier, Minato was sitting in his office looking over book after book. He had to find a different way to stop the kyuubi. He had to. He couldn't accept the other option. He wouldn't accept it. There had to be something that he hasn't thought of. Something. Damn it. I can't find anything. There has to be another way to stop it. There has to. This was the state of the Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. For the past 3 weeks the village had known that the kyuubi was out of hell, and at first he was good. Just roaming the country until 2 days after he appeared he just went crazy. He lost it and attacked everything and anything in its path. It spared no one and it was heading in Konoha's direction. At first the village was in disbelief. Why, you might ask? Well, it is quite simple really. Why would the king of all demons just appear one normal day then sudden go crazy and attack everything in its path? They were just lucky enough to be in its path, lucky them. Anyway, the village was in a panic. How were they supposed to stop the king of all demons? He was rumored to be able to destroy entire mountains with just one swing of his tails and also start tsunamis with another swing. It was a creature that no one wanted to face, and they were going to face it. The Hokage took action immediately and cancelled all missions and called all shinobi in the field to come back to Konoha immediately. They did just that too. They would fight for their home and family. They were shinobi of Konoha, and they would be damned if they went out without a fight. This was not what was bothering our Hokage though. It was the fact that he would have to sacrifice his own son to be able to stop the monster. Being the Hokage meant that the village came before family. But he was not willing to sacrifice his own son. He would do anything to protect him and make sure he had a great life, which was why he was in his office banging his head on the table as we speak. You see, he found a way to stop the beast, but it was too high of a price for him to pay. Seeing as the beast was immortal by human standards and could not be killed by any mere human, it would take nothing less than a force of nature to stop him, a hurricane, a tsunami, something huge and powerful. He unfortunately had none of this. He may be considered the strongest of his time, but not even he had that kind of power. The only thing he could do right now to stop the great beast was seal it away into his own son. By doing that, the Kyuubi and his son would eventually pass on, and the Kyuubi would die with his son. He had the seal made up and everything. He would call upon the death god himself. A being that even the Kyuubi had no power against. With him he would seal away the Kyuubi inside his son, and thus would end the Kyuubi's reign of terror. The only problem was that afterwards everyone would think of his son as the monster Kyuubi himself, thus making his son's life a living hell at a young age. He would not do that. He was broken out of his thought when the door to his office in his house opened up and in came his wife. "Minato, how is it going? Any progress?" The voice of his wife made him look up and smile a defeated smile. She was beautiful to say the least. Her name was Kushina Namikaze, the wife of Minato Namikaze. She stood a good 5 feet 8 inches. She was very pregnant and expecting in a day. Even though she was pregnant, she was still very beautiful. She had a maroon kimono on, that had sakura petals on the edges. She had a nice figure and beautiful face. She had light blue eyes and long dark red hair that went all the way to her mid-back. She was beautiful. With a heavy sigh, "No, all I've been able to come up with is the seal, and I refuse to use that on our son," Minato said with another heavy sigh. "Oh, I'm sure you'll think of something. You always do." She said this with a beautiful voice while giving her husband a smile. Minato just looked at her and couldn't help but feel slightly better. "How do you always do it? You always make me feel better whenever I'm down." She couldn't help but giggle slightly at that. He was just so amusing sometimes. "Well, you know me. I'm just like duh." Oof. She fell down on her knees and Minato was by her side in a split second. "Are you okay? Come on, you should come sit down," he said while leading her over to the couch in his office. He sat her down and sat beside her, obviously really worried about her. "Thanks," she said after she got on the couch. "Was he kicking again?" "Yeah. He sure is active lately. I can't wait till he is born and I can hold him in my arms though." She had a faraway look on her face at this point. She was imagining how handsome her son was going to look. She couldn't wait. "Yeah, tell me about it. I hate to see you in pain, and just like you, I can't wait to see our kid." There was a comfortable silence in the room after that. Both lost in their own thoughts about their unborn son and how his life was going to be. They were leaning against each other on the couch too. Kushina had her head on the nape or collar of Minato's neck. He was leaning his head on hers too. It was a comfy silence while embracing each other in each other's company. But both of the minds wandered to the inevitable future to come. If Minato couldn't find another way for them to stop the Kyuubi, then they would have to seal it in their son, and that was the last thing that they want to happen. They were both realists and knew that their son would be treated horribly if the Kyuubi was inside of him. It was a parent's worst nightmare to see their kid in danger or know that his life was anything but happy. Suddenly Kushina started to cry. Minato looked down at her and couldn't help but feel sad too. They were sealing away their son's fate. Not just any fate, but a horrible one too. All Minato could do was embrace her tighter to give whatever comfort he could for her. They stayed like that for a good while until Kushina could stifle her sobs. "Why, Minato, sniffle, why did this have to happen now, sniffle, when we just started to have a family too? We were going to be happy, sniffle, why?" She started to cry some more. Through it all, Minato could only hold her and give her a little comfort. It was the hardest thing he had to go through. To see the one you love so much break down, and you couldn't do a thing to help. It sucked. If only I could find a way to get rid of the kyuubi and not have to hurt our son in any way. Damn it, there has to be something that I'm not thinking about. There was another long period of time where they just held each other. It was an agonizing thing to go through. If only the kyuubi never left hell in the first place. Why can't it just go back and leave us alone? Let us live our lives in peace. We didn't do anything to it. It's not fair. She started to cry again. Through this all Minato froze for some reason. After she didn't get a response and she felt Minato stiffen, she looked up just in time to see Minato hug her super tight. "You're a genius, Akari-chan," he told her while holding her tighter than ever. What do you mean?" Minato couldn't help but feel happy about this something. He was smiling an ear-to-ear smile that showed how happy he was. "I just thought of a way to stop the kyuubi and it's all thanks to you. You're a genius. God, I love you." "What? How? What are you going to do? Tell me, please." By now she was staring at her husband with the most hope she's had on her face for the last 5 days now. She had to know. "It's like you said. Why can't kyuubi just go back to hell? If I alter the seal I made to seal the kyuubi into one that summons up the portal to demon world where he came from, then force him in, he will be gone. I'll still need to summon the death god because I'll need his power to send him back where he belongs. But it is entirely possible with the help of the death god. After all, he controls death of both humans and demons." After that was said, Kushina Namikaze was one of the happiest people in the world. There was still hope. She could count on Minato to make the seal. They were saved. She started to cry again, but this time it was from pure happiness. "I got to go make the new seal and get everything ready. You go back to Tsunade and have her take care of you and our little boy. Can't have either of you getting hurt. That would make this entire thing pointless, wouldn't it, honey?" He playfully hugged her before he beelined it to his library to work on the new seal. Kushina just watched her husband's retreating back before getting up and doing just that. Next day, we find our yellowed-haired friend in his office over the newly designed seal that was drawn on a huge piece of paper when a boy ran into his office without even knocking. The door flew open and he ran in to stand in front of Minato, panting heavily, bent over with his hands on his knees. He was a boy no older than 13 with a face mask covering his lower face. It went around his neck all the way up and over his nose. He had his Konoha headband covering his left eye. He had silver hair that was sticking up and slightly backwards. He also wore the standard Junin vest of the village. After gaining his breath somewhat, he stood to look at the startled man. "Minato-sensei, pant, Kushina, in labor, at the hospital." The second he spoke this, Minato was out the door faster than he could see. All that was left was an after image of him standing there in a yellow streak leaving out the door. After getting over the sudden loss of seeing his sensei moving that fast again, he simply used the Shunshin no Jutsu to teleport to the hospital. With an audible poof sound and a cloud of smoke later, he was gone. Hours later, "He's beautiful, isn't he, Minato-kun?" That was the voice of a very tired woman named Kushina Namikaze. She just finished giving birth to her child and is now holding that same child in her arms lovingly. Standing beside her is her husband Minato Namikaze, staring at his boy. He couldn't be happier right now. He was on cloud 9. "What's his name, you two?" asked an old man that just walked through the door. He was very old too. You could tell by the small amount of wrinkles that were starting to form on his face. He stood in the doorway walking up to them with a smile of his own. "His name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto," Kushina said with a smile as she looked down at her son. "How do you like that name, Naruto?" she asked playfully as she let her son play with her finger. The response was a giggle from Naruto and his pulling on her finger with more vigor than before. Everyone in the room just smiled happily, especially Minato. "Hi, there, Naruto. I'm your father, Minato. You're going to grow up to be really strong like your father, aren't you, huh?" he asked as he let him play with his finger and suck on it just as his wife did. This truly was a great day for the Namikaze family. Their newest member was just born. And what a great member that child would be. Flashback end. Gamabunta, let's finish this. Those were the words that the Toad boss heard before he jumped towards the kyuubi no Kitsune. With one mighty push off his legs, he flew in the air right over the fox and landed behind said fox. The 9 tails immediately lashed out at him. The Toad boss dodged to the side, just barely being missed. One tail was far to close though. Then the giant fox charged in and took a swipe with one of its might claws and managed to hit the toad boss in the face because the fox was just too fast to dodge all of its tails and then a surprise from its claws. The mighty claw came down on Gamabunta's face and went right over his eye. He screamed out in pain and jumped back to get some distance. Sweden Tepodama. Water release gunshot. Gamabunta fired a huge water blast from his mouth and it went straight for its only target. Just when it was about to hit though, the fox flared its chakra and shot out a huge fireball out of its mouth that collided with the water blast. When both hit each other, it created a huge steam that covered the field. When it cleared, both Gamabunta and the kyuubi were standing and ready to pounce on each other once more. They charged each other, but time seemed to slow down suddenly. On top of Gamabunta stood Yondaime of Konoha no Sato, and he had just finished his long series of hand seals. Throughout the whole battle between the two giants, Minato was doing hand seal after hand seal. 123 hand seals later, he was finally done and he yelled out his jutsu. Shiki Fujin. Jigoku Koka Kyoden Chiton Numa no Jutsu. Descending hell to mirror heaven and earth change to underworld no jutsu. All life within a 40-mile radius stood still, not daring to move for being afraid of what might come next. Even the mighty kyuubi dared not move, for even he, the king of all demons, felt the power that jutsu possessed. Suddenly the ground underneath kyuubi and Gamabunta shook violently and started to crack right from under them. Both giants jumped back and watched as the very earth crumbled to nothingness. Then cracks that were a foot in diameter each, running for hundreds of feet in every direction from where it started, began to form, and the ground suddenly collapsed downward. After a few agonizing seconds, the hole could be seen for all in the world to witness. Where there used to be forest now was a hole the size of three kyuubis combined. It was hundreds of feet wide. On the other side of this hole you could see flames like no other, and other demons as well. Then from behind Gamabunta appeared a being scarier than the kyuubi himself, the death god in all of its glory. It was transparent, but you could feel the power coming off of it. And it wasn't a normal power either. It felt like pure death. The death god saw the king of all demons and reached out for the demon lord. Death's hands grabbed the demon lord and dragged the kyuubi into the pit that was demon world, also known as hell. The kyuubi felt death's hands, and even he, as powerful as he was, couldn't help the shiver that went down its spine at just the feel of death's hands. He tried to fight back, but to no avail. Death succeeded in pulling the demon lord into the underworld. Once inside hell, the death god came back out and spread his arms wide. Then, as if pulling two things together in front of him, he moved his arms from their outstretched position and proceeded to pull them together in front of him, till his wrists were touching. As the death god did this, the portal to the underworld shut and closed once again. All the onlookers saw of this was the ground crumbling and then kyuubi being pulled in. They could not see the death god. Only those who have signed his contract can see or summon him. All the onlookers saw after that was just a blinding light. They did not see the portal close or the death god. All they saw was a blinding light that lasted a good 20 seconds before it faded down into nothingness. When they could see again, they were astonished. There in the field was Gamabunta with the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato on top of him, and no sign of the demon lord at all. But to one Yondaime Hokage, he saw the death god approach him and rip out his very soul from his body. He knew this would happen. That was the cost of calling forth the death god. You die in the process and he takes your soul with him to the afterlife. It was a self-sacrificing jutsu. As his soul was ripped out, all he could think about was his wife and child. He was happy that at least his son Naruto was alive. He knew his wife was dead, though how he knew was beyond him. It was a feeling in the back of his head that told him so. He just prayed that it was a quick and painless death. Finally though, his mind went to his child, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. He got to hold his son and spend an entire 4 days with him. That time was spent with his wife and son. And what a great 4 days that was. His son was alive and he could now live a life of happiness and not the hell that could have been. Knowing this, the Yondaime died with a smile on his face as he fell from Gamabunta's head towards the ground. His last words were, "Live well, Naruto." He died in the middle of the fall and Gamabunta caught him with his tongue and laid him on the ground. With the fight over, there was no need for him to be there, so he disappeared in a poof of smoke back to where he came. The onlookers of the fight were startled when the Hokage fell off of Gamabunta and ran to where he was put down. When they got there they found he was dead. The battle was over. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was gone and their Hokage was dead. The next day, everyone was standing outside of the Hokage building, where there was to be an announcement made about the battle yesterday. Everyone was there. From citizens to shinobi, from infants to the elderly. Absolutely everyone within the hidden village of Konoha was there. They didn't have to wait long before the previous Hokage, the third Hokage, Sarutobi, went in front of the podium and stood there for the crowd to quiet down. Within moments the entire crowd was quiet, even the babies. Clearing his throat he spoke in a low voice, as you all know, yesterday was a tragic day for the village. We lost many men and women. Some were shinobi and some were citizens. They all had long prosperous lives ahead of them. They need not have died, had it not been for the demon. We do not know why the great demon would suddenly attack, but that is not important when compared to the losses we have suffered. What is important though is that we defeated it, and now is the time we rebuild and start over. Many were lost in that battle but will not be forgotten. They live on in the heart of us all, and we will not let the flames of fire burn out. We will continue on in this world and return to our former glory. At this point in the speech the crowd cheered loudly for the speech. Sarutobi raised his hands to motion everyone to quiet down so he could continue. Yesterday we also lost the fourth Hokage, my successor Namikaze Minato. He fought to protect this village and used a self-sacrificing kinjutsu. By doing so he defeated the demon fox and saved all of Konoha. I am also sad to say that his wife Namikaze Uzumaki Kushina is also dead. She went into battle with her comrades and died in the fighting. The crowd became sad once again and Sarutobi continued on. Because Minato is dead, I will be taking his place as Hokage once again. The crowd was mixed between cheering for the reinstated third Hokage and being quite in respect of the late fourth Hokage and his wife. Sarutobi continued on. Although we have lost much, we can rebuild, and we will. Families have been pulled apart, but they will grow again in time. Buildings may have fallen, but we will rebuild them. Konoha will once again prosper in due time. The final thing that I would like to say would be about the late fourth and his wife. He was a great man and shinobi, but he was an even better husband to his wife Kushina. Many in the crowd hung their heads at this. They knew they both died, and they knew that they were also due to have a child and day now. But now that would not happen. After another pause in his speech to let all the information sink in, he once again started, but this time with a brighter sound in his voice. The crowd also noticed this. On my final note, I would like to say that not all of the Namikaze family is gone. There is one more left, and that is none other than Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, Minato's and Kushina's child. The crowd gasped at this. They thought that the Namikaze were all dead. This surely was bright news. One person decided to be brave and ask the question that everyone wanted to but was too scared to do so. Hokage-sama, may we see the child of our hero? Sarutobi looked at him and then nodded to someone off to the side. It was none other than the kid that burst through the door in Minato's house a few days prior to tell him about Kushina being in labor. Kakashi Hatake walked up to the Hokage and carefully handed him a bundle in his arms to the Hokage. Once the third had the child in his arms, he turned back to the crowd, allowed them to see the child. He was just an ordinary-looking child, but he was a Namikaze, and that made him special. This is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Named by his own parents before they died. They wished they could be with him and help him grow up in this town that they loved, but that unfortunately could not be so. They asked me to personally take care of the child until he is old enough to live on his own, and that is what I intend to do. The crowd looked at the child and could not help but feel a little better that at least some things from the lives they once knew were left. The son of their hero lived, and that was great. Perhaps life in the Hidden Leaf Village would prosper again, like the third said. After the speech was given, Sarutobi walked off back to his home, and the village did the same. Tomorrow was a new day for Konoha. Asuma-san, today is the day I go to the academy, right? That was the question that Namikaze Naruto asked as he ate his breakfast. He was talking to Sarutobi Asuma, the third's son. He was a Junin of good height, 6 feet 3 inches. He had blue shinobi pants, blue saddles, and a green Junin vest with the 6 pockets for scrolls on the front. He had black hair that spiked upwards but not too high. He also had sideburns that went all the way to his chin where his beard was. He had brown eyes with the standard headband tied around his forehead with the leaf symbol on it. He also had a cigarette in his mouth. That was his trademark, that cancer stick of a habit of his. He always had one with him or in his mouth. Yes, Naruto, you go to the academy today. You've been asking for the last week already. Geez. The cigarette-smoking Junin said. Well, I'm just excited, that's all. Come on, it's my first day after all. I'm finally going to be a ninja. He was so happy. Finally he could be strong like his dad was. Yes, I know. You know, you're pretty lucky, Squirt. Most of the time they don't just let a 5-year-old into the academy. Usually you have to be 6 to get in. But I guess they made an exception for you. Yeah, a lot of people do that because of who my father was. But that will stop someday. I don't just want to be known as my dad's kid. I want people to know me because of my accomplishments. He pouted. Everyone always gave him special treatment because of who his parents were. Well, kid, I hope you accomplish that goal of yours. But you better start to get a move on. Remember, you're younger than the other kids right now, so they might be stronger than you are. Also, if you don't go pretty quickly, you might not make it in time. He had to smirk at the kid now. After a second he looked at the clock, jumped out of his chair and rushed out the door, barely even saying goodbye. Now outside of the Sarutobi compound, we find our 5-year-old jogging to the academy for his first day of school. All the way there people smiled, waved, and greeted him. They always gave him nice smiles. I guess that's the perks of your dad being the 4th Hokage. He thought to himself. When he finally made it to the academy, he asked where the room for his class would be. They told him which room it would be in and saw him off with another smile. He walked into the classroom and everyone stared at him. He got that often. He just shrugged and walked up the stairs to the last row and took a seat in the middle. He sat there waiting for about 10 minutes until the teacher came in and asked for it to quiet down. After about a minute of people still talking, the teacher had a vein pop out on his forehead and then screamed at the class. Quiet. Sit down in your seats. While he screamed, his head somehow blew up and became red. He looked like a very scary man when angry. He must be some kind of jutsu, Naruto thought. That's better. Now that everyone is quiet, we can start class. For the next 6 years you will be attending the academy to learn how to be ninja. My name is Amino Iruka. I am a chunin and you can call me Iruka-sensei. Now for roll call. He took roll call alphabetically, and when he got to the K's he said, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. At the name Namikaze, many turned their heads towards the student that said here. It would be a lie to say that everyone in Konoha didn't know about the last Namikaze left. There were many whispers going around that soon turned into full-blown talking. Again that vein appeared on Iruka's head. Quiet down. That got them to shut up. Better, now Sito Iwate, and so on and so on. After roll call, Iruka explained that by the end of the 6 years in the academy they would know a lot about the shinobi nations, history of Konoha, all about chakra, at least 3 jutsu, and of course how to be a proper shinobi. To pass the academy you had to have good grades and be able to perform those 3 jutsu with good results. 8 months later, Iruka-sensei had just walked in and everyone sat down and sat there quietly. After the first couple dozen times the students learned not to get the evil big-headed no jutsu, so they wisely shut up when he entered. Iruka saw this and couldn't help but smirk. They were so easy to control right now. Okay class, thanks for being quiet. Roll call time. He went through roll call just like normal. Today is a very special day. Someone in this class will be given the graduation test really early. He or she has shown great promise and is years ahead of everyone else. In fact, the youngest to ever graduate the academy was Uchiha Itachi at a record of 6.5 years old. Today someone might break that record. The class broke out in gossip about who could possibly be that good in class. They didn't have to wait long before the answer was given in the form of a name. Will Namikaze Naruto please come with me to another room so you may take the paper test first? Iruka exclaimed with a smile on his face. Me? Naruto was dumbfounded. He knew he was stronger than anyone else in class, but to be good enough to be a genin, he didn't know about that. Luckily for him, Iruka-sensei saw this look. Now Naruto, I know you and your fellow classmates might be wondering how you could be so advanced. Well, it shows on your test scores and your performance of taijutsu. Hand-to-hand combat. You see, I've compared your scores with others from last year's graduation exams and your answers are on their level if not better than theirs. Your taijutsu, according to me and 3 other teachers, is on par with a genin, and your strength and speed are too. Overall, the teachers believe you are ready to be a genin. So please follow me to the examination room. With that said, Iruka went out the door with Naruto following. Iruka returned 5 minutes later to continue his lessons for the others. 40 minutes later, Naruto came back into the classroom with his paper and handed it to Iruka. He looked it over and smiled. Congratulations, Naruto. You passed the written exam with 100%. Great job. Naruto beamed. He seriously thought that the test would have been harder. But surprisingly, it wasn't as difficult as he thought. Now class, I'll leave this up to you. Do you want to come watch Naruto perform the other tests to graduate? If you don't, I can get another teacher to test him. What do you say? He really wanted to be the one to test out Naruto, but if the class didn't want to, he had to stay. Luckily for him, everyone wanted to see what he could do, so they all headed outside for the next test. When they got out into the practice field, he turned to Naruto. Okay Naruto, usually we don't do this test for graduation, but since we don't have a good record of your abilities to throw kunai and shuriken, we need to test them. So you are going to throw these 10 shuriken at those dummies and then 10 kunai at the other dummies. Try to hit the bullseye. Naruto went and grabbed the aforementioned weapons and stepped up to the line. He put all but 2 kunai into his pockets, the other 2 he held in each hand. He took aim and then let them fly. They soared through the air and hit the dummies dead center in the bullseye. He repeated this for the other 8 kunai and 10 shuriken. They all hit the bullseye dead center. He turned around with a sheepish grin on his face. Iruka smiled back, but his other classmates had to pick up their mouths from the floors. They couldn't believe what they saw. This kid that was a year younger than anyone in the class and was doing great on the test. They couldn't believe their eyes. Well done Naruto, perfect again. Okay, now for the final test. Usually there is one more, and that is your taijutsu skills. But since you have had 4 teachers' approval, you don't have to take that one, so on to the final test. I want you to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique, for me first. You need to make at least 3 Bunshin or you fail. Whenever you're ready. Naruto took a step forward, but in front of everyone he was feeling really nervous. He took a big breath in to calm his nerves and prepared to mold his chakra. He performed the ram seal and 10 poofs of smoke happened beside him. When the smoke cleared, there stood 11 Narutos. One was the real one and the other 10 illusions created by the technique. Once again the student had to pick their jaws off the ground, and even Iruka joined them this time. Well, you surprised me again Naruto. You passed that one perfectly with flying colors. You even made 7 more clones than you needed to. Now please perform the Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement, for the second part. Naruto did just that. Going through some seals and then switching places with a log that was in the training grounds. It went off without a hitch. Well done again, Naruto. You passed that part too. Now for the final jutsu, please perform the Henge no Jutsu, transformation, and turn into an exact copy of me please. Naruto complied. He stood in front of the class and put his hands in the ram seal again and said Henge. There was a puff of smoke, and when the cloud disappeared there stood an exact copy of Iruka. Well done Naruto. Perfect again. You can drop the jutsu now. Naruto did as his teacher told, and with another audible poof and a cloud of smoke, there stood Naruto, dressed in his blue pants and white shirt. Well done on everything. Congratulations Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. You pass your Genin graduation exam. You are officially a ninja of Konoha. Naruto jumped up in joy that he passed. He couldn't believe this. He was awesome. You are now also the official youngest Genin to ever come out of Konoha village at the age of 6 years old and 2 weeks. Come here Naruto so you can get your official headband. Naruto did as instructed and went over to Iruka and was handed a Konoha headband. A brand new one too. It had the Konoha leaf on it. The actual band you would use to tie around your head was blue. He wanted black, but he could get that fixed later. He looked at it and then lifted it up to his forehead. He put it on and tied the back of it tight so it wouldn't come off. He was very happy right now. That took all of the time for today's lessons, so class is dismissed, Iruka said happily. The next day, Naruto was walking to the academy for the last time. He was instructed yesterday to come back so he could meet his new sensei. People looked at him and had to look twice because of the headband that they saw. They, just like the class, couldn't believe it. Here was a kid, just 6 years old, and he made it to genin rank. He may be the 4th S kid, but still, that was huge. Not even Itachi, the supposed super genius of his clan, made it to genin that quick. He was 6.5 when he was made a genin. They looked at him and found a little more respect for him. He must have worked really hard. Oblivious to all the looks he was getting from everyone, Naruto just kept walking to the academy. Right now his mind was in a different place. It was on all the training he went through. It was hell to say the least. Unlocking his chakra at 4 years old, and then using it at 5. Then mastering the basics was really hard. He also had to run constantly, do push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, all sorts of things, but it was all worth it in the end. I wonder who my sensei will be, he thought to himself as he continued his trek to the academy. When he got there he saw Iruka waiting outside the door. That was unusual, but he shrugged and started to walk to the door when he stopped him with a hand to the shoulder. Naruto, follow me so I can show you where you can wait for your Junin instructor, Iruka asked. Why not just wait in the normal classroom? It was a normal question to ask in the situation. Naruto, you are a genin now, they are not. They have to learn the basics still where you already have at an extremely young age. It would only be a waste of your time to go back into that room where you already know everything I'm going to teach. Man, I hope that works. I just don't want to have to listen to the others ask a million questions and then have to yell at them to be quiet, Iruka thought. Come on Iruka-sensei. I may be advanced, but there is always stuff to know. I'm sure there's stuff you haven't taught me yet. No Naruto, just go wait in that room. Sorry Naruto, I don't want to be mean or anything, I just don't want the headache today, he thought to himself. Oh, alright. If you say so Iruka-sensei. He walked towards the room and went to sit down in one of the chairs to wait for his sensei to come. After about an hour of waiting, a man walked in with a familiar cigarette in his mouth. Asuma-san, you're my new sensei? In his mind he was thinking, damn, never saw that one coming. Ah yes, Naruto, I am your new sensei. Meet me on the roof and we shall talk there. With that, he poofed out of the room, probably to the roof. Naruto watched him poof out of there and said, damn lazy senseis and crap. I can't wait till I learn that jutsu. I'll make my own version that is way cooler than that stupid cloud of smoke. With that notion he walked out of the classroom and up the stairs and then up to the roof where he saw his new sensei sitting on the railing waiting for him. Well, took you long enough Naruto. We're going to have to work on that speed of yours, aren't we? He had this evil little smirk on his face. Naruto gulped. He only saw that look on Asuma-san when he was planning something. And by the way he was looking at me, it was something I wouldn't like. Crap. I'm so dead, he thought. 2 years later, Naruto, you are a special case to promote. Since you have no team you cannot participate in the Chunin exams, so we must test you another way. I have come up with a way for you to be promoted by another test. 2 to be exact. One will be a normal test that all Chunin should be able to do, and another will be a fight against a Chunin of my choosing. Do you accept these terms, Namikaze Naruto? The person that spoke was sitting behind a desk in the office of the Hokage Tower. He was a wise person and had a nickname that all knew. A name that could spread fear into enemies or hope to your allies. His nickname was, the Professor. It was none other than the 3rd Hokage, the Sandaime. Hi, Hokage-sama. Good, then your test will be in 2 days' time. Be prepared. You are dismissed. Oh, and Asuma, please stay. I want to talk to you for a minute. Thank you Hokage-sama. With those departing thanks Naruto walked out of the office. Asuma turned back towards his father and looked at him expectantly. Yes, that's right. Asuma is the 3rd son. What is it you wanted to speak to me about, Hokage-sama? He still had to be formal when in the office. Please, you know I don't like it when you are so formal. Just stick with Sarutobi-san or Atu-san. Dad. When we are in private. Now, I wanted you to stay so we could talk about Naruto and where he is living right now. I think it is time. 2 days later, okay Naruto, here is your test. Do your best on it. Hi, sensei. And so for the next hour Naruto sat in a desk in a classroom doing his test. After the hour was done Asuma came back in and asked for the paper and saw that it was finished completely. He read over the answers and wrote something on it and then gave it back to Naruto. Naruto looked at it and when he saw it he put on a smile. He had gotten a 95% on it. Damn, I was really worried there for a second. Some of those questions were really hard. I guess I know more than I thought. Well, good job Naruto. Come follow me and I will lead you to where you will fight your opponent. And so they headed out the door and down the hall and into the forest that surrounded Konoha. After about 30 minutes of walking they finally came to a training ground where there were two people. One was the Hokage and the other was unknown to Naruto. Ah, glad you could make it Naruto. I assume that you have passed the written test. He got two nods. One from Asuma, and the other from Naruto himself. Very well, since you passed you will move on to the final stage of your test. This is the Chunin you will be fighting against. He has been a Chunin for 5 months. To become a Chunin yourself, you must defeat him in a battle. You may start whenever you two are ready. With that statement Naruto walked over to left side of the field and the other guy went to the right side, while the Hokage and his son were on the sidelines. The man opposite of Naruto slipped into a battle stance and got ready, but Naruto just stood there until he asked a question. Before we start I would like to know your name if you don't mind, Naruto asked. The man was startled a little, could only look on in dumb amusement. He thought he would just want to get the fight started right away, but nonetheless got out of the fighting stance and stood up and gave a bow while he gave his name. Naruto did the same. Well then, let's get this thing started, shall we Kenji-san? With that they both got into a fighting stance. Kenji's stance had his left foot out in front and hands at his side with arms slightly bent. Naruto chose the basic academy taijutsu stance. They stayed in their positions for about 10 seconds before they both charged at each other and then clashed with fists. Naruto caught Kenji's right hand and the same for Kenji, but with Naruto's hand. They struggled to overpower each other but couldn't. With a push they both jumped back and started seals. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu, Grand Fireball. Naruto started off. The fireball speed towards his opponent and was about to hit when he was replaced with a log. Damn Akawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement, where is he? Front. No. Left. No. Right. No. Back. No. Up. No. Then below. With that he jumped up, just in time to see his opponent's hands pop out of the ground and try to grab him, right where he used to be. Since it failed, he emerged completely, only to hear a shout of Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, Phoenix Immortal Fire. He dodged as quickly as he could, but one of the 15 fireballs that were unleashed hit him in the chest. If it wasn't for his Chunin vest he would be badly burnt, but luckily for him, he had one on. But before he could get his bearings back, he felt someone land in front of him. He looked up just in time to see a fist come and hit him in the gut and then another hit, but this time from Naruto's leg. Suddenly, he felt another kick. It was under him, sending him upwards into the sky. He opened his eyes to see his opponent appear behind him with a Kage Buyo, Shadow of the Dancing Leaf. With that said Naruto proceeded to hit his opponent in the back once, to paralyze him temporarily, and then swung around him to the front and hit him with his first once in the stomach, cheek, and both shoulders. By the time that was done they had reached the ground and Naruto pushed off his opponent and flipped to the ground, to land on his feet rather nicely. His opponent was not so lucky. He was tossed into the ground on his back and fell hard. When the dust cleared he was lying there unconscious. With the fight over, the two watching came over to look at the two fighters. Naruto was unscathed and his opponent was in the ground hurt pretty badly. Well done Naruto, you passed the second test. Come, let's get this guy to the hospital and then we can talk in my office. Hi Hokage-sama and thank you for the compliment. Naruto was now extremely happy. He beat his opponent and he was now going to be a Chunin. The day couldn't get any better. After dropping off the man at the hospital and telling the doctor that he was hurt in a sparring fight, they left to the Hokage's tower and went inside. On the way they got many greetings and people tried to start small conversations. Between the Hokage, his son, and the fourth's son they had a lot of people that greeted them. When they finally made it, they went inside and the old Hokage, he's like 64 years old, sat in his chair and then motioned for the other two to do the same. Well done Naruto, as of today you are an official Chunin of Konoha. With this promotion comes some more responsibility too. You will be leading missions, you will have subordinates and their lives will be in your hands. It is up to you to be a good leader and guide them through the missions. Now here is your Chunin vest. He handed over a vest that looked a lot like his sensei's vest, but there were slight differences in them. One was the collar was shorter and it was a lighter green. Secondly, it looked to have a little less armor in it than the Junin vest, Also the Chunin vest was slightly more rounded. It did have similarities though. They both had 6 pockets in the front for scrolls. Naruto accepted the vest with pride and then put it on. It was specially designed for him because he was younger than and not as big as normal Chunin yet. After putting it on, Naruto looked at the Hokage and bowed. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. You don't know how much I have wanted this." Naruto was extremely happy. No, Naruto, you earned it. You worked hard to get that vest and now you have it. It was all your hard work. Sarutobi replied with a smile on. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. No more formalities, Naruto. You know in private you can speak with me using just my name, right?" "Hi, Hoka. I mean Sarutobi-san. Better but still needs work. Anyways, now for the reason I wanted us in my office in the first place. You have been living in the Sarutobi mansion for 8 years now and it is time for you to move out if you wish. Your father left me instructions on when you could get your inheritance and other things that are rightfully yours. He told me that you could be given your clan house and your father's fortune when you reach Chunin, and you have now. So without further ado, here are the keys to your new home and the bank accounts of your family." With that he handed Naruto the keys and a slip of paper that he had gotten out of a safe behind the picture of the 4th's photo. "Now remember, Naruto, if you don't want to live by yourself and wish to stay at the Sarutobi mansion, then I will let you, but if you do decide to live by yourself then you will have to cook, clean, do everything by yourself. You won't be able to depend on others. Also you will have to be responsible with all that money your parents left you." Sarutobi really didn't want him to go and live by himself, but that was Naruto's choose if he wanted to live by himself, not his own. "Sarutobi-san, thanks, but no thank you. I'm a ninja now and have been for the last 2 years. I can take care of myself and you know as well as I do that I'm more than responsible enough to. So thanks, but no thanks. I will live in my family home." Naruto did appreciate the old man, but he wanted to prove he was responsible and was capable of taking care of himself. "Very well then. Do you know where your house is or do you need some directions?" the old man asked. "I know where it is. It's by the Hyuga estate, right?" "Yes, that's right. If you ever need anything come and ask me," Sarutobi said. "Responsible with all that money your parents left you." Sarutobi really didn't want him to go and live by himself, but that was Naruto's choose if he wanted to live by himself, not his own. "Sarutobi-san, thanks, but no thank you. I'm a ninja now and have been for the last 2 years. I can take care of myself and you know as well as I do that I'm more than responsible enough to. So thanks, but no thanks. I will live in my family home." Naruto did appreciate the old man, but he wanted to prove he was responsible and was capable of taking care of himself. "Very well then. Do you know where your house is or do you need some directions?" the old man asked. "I know where it is. It's by the Hyuga estate, right?" "Yes, that's right. If you ever need anything come and ask me," Sarutobi said. "You can ask me to, after all. What kind of sensei would I be if you couldn't ask for a little help from me, right?" Naruto's sensei asked. "Yeah, no problem. Thanks again guys, I'll be sure to keep in touch with ya. See ya." With that, he teleported out of the office, with the classic Konoha Shunshin, a swirl of leaves. "He sure has grown fast, hasn't he, Atusan?" Asuma couldn't help but feel happy and proud about how good his student was. "After all, he will probably be in the history books someday. And I will be praised as his sensei," he thought with a small smile. "Yes, he has. And what are you smirking about over there?" "Oh, nothing." He laughed as he walked out of his father's office. "I wonder what that was about. Oh well, none of my business." He then turned in his chair and then looked outside his window to the Hokage monument. "Minato, Kushina, you would be so proud of your son if you were here. He is getting stronger and stronger in life and he just keeps doing it at an amazing pace. I wouldn't be surprised if he even surpasses you someday, Minato. It wouldn't surprise me at all," he thought. Outside of the office, Naruto was walking down the streets and was getting congratulated on his new promotion. He greeted them with thanks and then continued on his way. As he passed by a stand, he caught a whiff of a great aroma that made him turn his head that way. He was a little hungry, so why not get some food? So he walked into the stand, called Ichiraku Ramen Bar. He sat down at the counter and noticed that the place was relatively empty. There were only 2 other people in there. When he sat down, the waitress came to him and gasped. "Namikaze-sama, how may I help you?" the waitress asked. Naruto looked at her and released a sigh. Why can't people just call me by my name? Why is it always Naruto-sama, Namikaze-sama? Why not just Naruto-kun, or Naruto-san? But no, always with the formalities. Oh, I'm sick of it, he ranted while he hung his head down. Did I say something wrong, Namikaze-sama? She asked. Naruto just hung his head more at this. After a few seconds and the girl trying to apologize for something she thinks she did wrong, Naruto raised his head and looked at her. She was a couple of years older than him, maybe around 12 years old or so. She had brown hair and had an apron on with a bandana, which was white, on her head to hold her hair from going into her face. No, there is nothing to apologize for. Really, I'm just kind of sick of people calling me Namikaze-sama or something like that. They're all too formal. Please just call me Naruto-san, miss. Oh, my name is Ayame. The girl told him, like I said, just call me Naruto-san from now on, please, Ayame-chan. He said with a small smile on his face. Ayame just nodded dumbly. Here was probably the most popular and renowned guy in Konoha, and he just asked her to talk to him normally. And he added the chan suffix to her name, which was another surprise. Chan was used when you were close friends with a girl, not when you just meet them. Oh well, she would go with it if he wanted her to. Alright, Naruto-san. What can I get for you today? She asked with a smile on. Naruto smiled right back and replied, I would like a bowl of chicken ramen, please. Of course, it will be ready in a couple of minutes. Would you like something to drink in the meantime? Yes, just get me some tea for now, no preference. She nodded and walked around back, but came back a moment later with a cup of tea. Another 5 minutes and his ramen was in front of him. He grabbed a pair of chopsticks and broke them apart and said, Itadakimasu, way of saying respect for the food given to you. With that, he dug into the ramen and started to eat the noodle, chicken and soup. He liked it a lot. He ate it in about 5 minutes and then asked for another bowl of the stuff. He got his second bowl a few minutes later and ate that one also in about 5 minutes. Damn, that was some good stuff, he thought to himself. Well, that was excellent. I'll be sure to tell others about this place. I really liked it, Ayame-chan. I'll be seeing you around, okay? He got up and put some money on the table before he left out the curtain and waved as he left. Who was that Ayame-chan? An older voice asked from around the corner. When he came around, he was wiping his hands down on a towel. He was an older man in his late 30s or so. He had on a chief hat and wore a white chief coat. That was Naruto-san. You probably know of him as Namikaze-sama. She watched her father's reaction intently. He dropped the towel on the floor and had his mouth agape. The Namikaze? As in the fourth Hokage's son? He asked, a little startled that he would come to a place like this. His daughter Ayame just nodded. Yes, Tuchi, name of dad. It was the Namikaze Naruto, but he doesn't like being called by his last name. He thinks it is too formal. So he asked me to call him Naruto-san, and I did, she replied. Well, what did he think about the food? He half asked, half shouted. He really liked it. He had 2 bowls of chicken soup. He even said that he would recommend us to others. She replied like it was nothing. Tucci was lost for words at that moment. The Namikaze came to his place and got 2 bowls of his food and he liked it. Then he said he would suggest the stand to other people. His face broke out into a huge grin. Tucson, why are you grinning? That grin kind of creeped her out a little. You don't get it, do you? If Namikaze-sama suggests us to other people, others will surely come, and if he comes again, and from what you told me he will, then this place will be busier than ever. We will make a fortune, he said with dollar signs in his eyes. Ayame could only shake her head at his antics and go back to work. At that very moment, Naruto was walking down the street towards his supposedly new home that was once his parents'. As he walked down the road he got more polite nods and even some greetings, which was the life he came to know. Everyone knew about him and what he did. The second something happened with him, it seemed as though the entire village would know about it before he could even travel halfway through it on foot. I guess everyone will know every time I do something new or accomplish something. It is kind of scary of how fast gossip travels in this town. I swear that gossip travels faster than any ninja could in this village, he thought as he continued to walk down the road. As he did so, he got closer and closer to the richer part of town. After another 10 minutes of walking, he came to a big gate that was in the middle of the forest. He opened it up and walked through. As he kept walking he noticed the landscape. It was a nice open front yard with some trees here and there. After some time on foot he came upon a house. Well, some may call it a house but others may call it a mansion, although Naruto considered it a house. It just didn't have the mansion feel to it. It was big, he would give anyone that, but it wasn't amazing like a mansion, but felt more like an actual house. Although he has gotten lost the few times, he had been inside the place before. It was your normal looking house, 2 stories tall, with the front door in the middle, windows here and there. On the second floor there were patios, so you could get some fresh air. In the front there were bushes all around the house and more trees in the distance. After checking the place out for a minute he decided to head on in. Without further ado, he said to no one in particular, more to himself to get out of his musing for so long. So he walked up to the front door and pulled out the key the old man had given him and put it into the keyhole on the front door and turned. With that, the lock was undone, opening up his new home. After walking into the house, the first thing he noticed were the stairs that lead to the second floor, a little way in front of him, and then the hallway he was in. There was a closet to put coats and stuff in, but he left all his stuff at the Sarutobi mansion for now, he would pick it up later. Right now he had a house to explore. With that exact thought in mind he wandered the halls. He found a bathroom, a living room, kitchen, dining room, another bathroom, and a bar. Then he found where he would most likely be spending most of his time in, the training room. There were weapons of every kind on the walls. There were mats everywhere, and it led outside into the backyard that was absolutely huge, to say the least. The clearing had to be at least 500 feet big. There were trees, again surrounding the training area, that lead farther out into Konoha, or outside of Konoha to be more precise. There was a small river going through the training ground that went into a lake about a mile away from his house. That would be a great source to practice his water jutsu. After checking out the backyard, he went back inside to look at the upstairs. Once on the second floor, he went into the main hallway, then split off into smaller ones most likely, he would find out. As he went down the hallway he checked out each room as he passed. There were a total of 8 bedrooms on this floor. But the main bedroom was absolutely great. In the middle of the room was a huge bed. Upon closer inspection, it was a king-sized bed with blue sheets over it for coverings and what looked like very comfy pillows. Continuing on with the observation of the room, he found a walk-in closet that was huge also. It had to be 20 feet by 10 feet. That was insane. If he ever had that many clothes, he would be crazy. But hey, the space would probably get used some time or another in his lifetime. After recovering from the huge closet he went into the personal bathroom and found it was also huge. There was a counter where the sink was and 2 cabinets. Then there was a big walk-in shower. Overall, the master bedroom was very, very nice. He continued down the hall and also found there were 2 storage rooms and 2 more bathrooms on the second floor. Oh, let's not forget the walkout balconies that were all over the front and backyards to look out and enjoy nature. He went downstairs and couldn't help but wonder where the library was. According to the old man, there was an absolutely huge library just full of everything a ninja could ever want, from techniques, ranging in all the elements, to taijutsu, to genjutsu, to history. It was all there, but the problem was he couldn't find it. After another 10 minutes of walking down the same paths, he got frustrated. Where the hell is the library? Then he suddenly remembered the old man Hokage talking about the library once when he asked about his parent house. Flashback. Naruto was 7 years old and was talking to the old man when a question suddenly became apparent to him. So being curious and knowing the old man would be able to answer them, he asked, "Hey Sarutobi-san." Hearing his name called, he looked down towards Naruto and said, "What is it you need, Naruto?" "Well, I was just wondering, you know how you said my parents have this huge library and stuff, with more stuff than the Hokage's building has?" Here he nods and motions for him to continue, which he does. "Well, I've been there before but I have never seen this library before. Where is it?" Sarutobi looked thoughtful for a minute before he replied, "Well, you know that kind of information can't get out into the open, right?" It was Naruto's turn to nod this time. "Well, since your parents had such a large amount of books, filled with very important things, and since your father was a seal master, he created seals all around the room to make it invisible to the human eye. It is like a genjutsu, but is more advanced, what with the amount of seals he put on there, to add to the security. He made it so only a select few could get in. Those people were restricted to just his family, in other words, you." Naruto had a look of awe on his face at that moment. He knew his dad was a seal master, but to be this good was unbelievable. Making an entire room disappear would take very intricate seals, and they would need to be done right and put into the right spots too. But this added another question. If it is invisible to the human eye, then how am I supposed to see it? Can I see through it because I'm family? Very good question, Naruto. You surprise me again with that brain of yours. No, you cannot see through it either. It is just as invisible to you as it is to me, but for you to see it, you have to do certain hand seals in front of where the door is supposed to be and then swipe a little blood on the wall and it will show itself. Even so, only you or your family can enter, no one else, not even me. The door will recognize your blood and body and let you in. It also has other safety features, like chakra signatures, blood, and body scans. These will all be checked when you touch the door handle. If you are deemed as a namikaze, then you can enter. If not, then it will never open for you no matter what you try. If you try to force it to open with a jutsu, you will be attacked with hidden weapons that would kill you before you even know it. It is the most secure thing in this entire village, and once you leave, if you want to put the invisibility on the door again, then all you need to do is some more hand seals and put some of your blood on the door. That's about it. Flashback end. So making his way down the hallway to where the door is supposed to be, but isn't, he goes through some hand seals and then bites his thumb and swipes some onto the wall, and presto, the wall warps and there is a door there in its wake. He reaches out and touches the handle, but nothing happens, so he assumes that it is working and turns it. It moves and then he pushes it open. What he sees is breathtaking. The room is huge. It must be at least 50 feet long and 30 feet wide. And it was just crammed full of books. They were everywhere. He could probably spend the next 6 years of his life in here and just read and still not be done with them all. It was that big. Then, he noticed something that caught his eye. It was a safe about 6 feet tall. He walked over and looked it over. There was no handle whatsoever on it, so it had to be the work of some kind of seal again. Then he saw the actual seal on it. It was very complex, like all the others he'd seen so far. Damn. I have no idea what these things mean. I wonder if it is another blood seal thing. Hopefully this time I don't have to use hand seals though. The old man never mentioned this. Oh well, couldn't hurt to try. He bit his thumb again, just enough to draw blood and then spread it over the seal on the safe. Surprisingly it opened up. Well, it actually worked. Sweat. Now, let's see what's in here. He looked and found there to be about 12 scrolls in there, but one in particular caught his attention. He picked it up and looked at the title. Namikaze Bloodline Limit. I knew I had one, and that it allowed me to do the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique, and the Advanced Shunshin no Jutsu. I wonder what it says. And so for the next few hours he looked at that scroll and a few others in the library as well. He then noticed the time and decided to go to bed for the night. He would have plenty of time to read more later. Target acquired. What are your orders, Captain? Stand down. I'll take care of this one personally. Hi. All of this was said in a whisper up in the trees, about 300 feet above the target. Suddenly, one of the ninja, who was going to attack, stepped in front of the others. He did 5 hand seals and grabbed his wrist with his left hand and had his right hand, palm pointed downwards. The hand itself was open, like it was going to hold a ball of some sorts. Then all of a sudden a red light started to form in his right hand. After about 3 seconds, the ball took on a shape. It was fire he was holding. But this fire seemed to be superheated and very compact. There was a ring of fire at his feet underneath him too. The jutsu he was using was very powerful. The chakra used in the attack could actually be seen, which was nearly impossible, unless used in huge amounts. Suddenly, the person with the fire in his palm ran forward at inhuman speeds. To anyone but a ninja he would be just a blur. In seconds, he reached his target and thrust his right hand forward into the man's chest. His hand went through the flesh and bone like it was butter and easily came out the back. His hand was right where the target's heart should have been. The target was dead before he even knew what happened. When the man died, he fell over onto his back and lay there motionlessly. Yep, he was definitely dead. Anybody could tell you that. The second that the attack had struck and went through him, the skin cauterized around the wound. Captain, you did a great job. We'll take care of the body and head back to Konoha. Hi. Take care of that, you have a minute. Hi Captain. With that, they went over to the body and chopped off the head so they could have proof of the kill and then used a Kaden Gokakyu no Jutsu, Grand Fireball, to burn the body so there would be no remains left. Sir, we are ready to leave. Good. Let's head back home. With that, they took off into the trees and headed to Konoha. About halfway there the captain was still in front and his team behind him. The team was having a discussion about what they just saw. In just a whisper so as to make sure the captain would not hear, they moved back some ways and started to talk to each other. Hey guys, what was that jutsu that he used back there? I've never seen something like that before. His companions looked at him with a look of disbelief on their faces. They had all seen him as that technique before, he had done other missions before, so why was this guy asking stupid questions? That's right. You are new to our team, aren't you? Well, you see, Captain there, here he points at their captain that was still running up in front with them following. Well, he made that jutsu. It's his creation, a personal jutsu. It's called Keizuki, also known as the Fire Blade. I hear that it was based off of Hitaki Kakashi's Reikiri, another personal jutsu. Here the man gasped. Hitaki Kakashi was famous throughout the shinobi world. Yeah, I know, that's our captain. The Keizuki is considered an S-rank jutsu that is used for assassinations. It creates fire in the hand so hot that it can go through anything, literally. It also somehow doesn't hurt him in any way. It truly is a scary technique. Wow, I knew he was strong and stuff, but wow. Yeah, that's our leader. He's only 13 and he has already made it to the position of Anbu captain. That is unheard of, except for Uchiha Itachi. He truly is a genius and prodigy. Dammnnn. Fox-sama sure is strong. Come on people. Let's keep the chatter down and keep moving. I want to be back before 5. With that said, Naruto speed up with his team of elite Anbu following closely behind. Later on, at the eastern gates of Konoha, we find 2 Anbu peering out into the surrounding woods when they both suddenly stiffen before one Anbu captain lands in front of them, followed 2 seconds later by a group of 10 more Anbu. They both recognize them immediately and tell them that they can enter, and one of them steps up to the captain. Captain, the Hokage wishes to see you right away. Naruto nods his head to the Anbu at the gate and then turns to his team. You are to return to Anbu headquarters and drop off our package, and then you can have the rest of the day off. Dismissed. Hi, Captain. They all speed off into the distance. Naruto just shook his head and then disappeared with a Shunshin no Jutsu, but this wasn't the normal Shunshin. Oh no, normal would be a swirl of leaves or a poof of smoke. Nope, this Shunshin engulfed Naruto in flames starting at his feet and then spread upward, up and above his head and then downward again back to his feet. It didn't even leave a scorch mark on the ground. The 2 Anbu watching the east gate looked at the sight of the captain disappearing in a pillar of flames with awe. They stared for some time before they snapped out of it and went back to guarding. How do you think he does that? One of the guards asked. No idea at all, but he is famous for all the different Shunshins he knows. How? I thought there were only 2 Shunshins in Konoha, the Leaf and Cloud of Smoke. Yeah, you're right. There are only 2 that Konoha knows, but Fox-sama has become famous in Konoha, not just by his name or by his rank at such a young age, but also by his nickname. Oh, and what would that be? The first asked in a sing-song voice, trying to be sarcastic. His nickname is Shunshin no Kazama. It is rather appropriate really, seeing as he has invented at least 5 new Shunshins by himself. From the last count I heard, at least 5. He created 5 new ones. That's incredible. Yep, I know. Now let's go back to work. I don't want to get on the bad side of our superior. They both shuddered at that. Across town in the Hokage's tower, you would find an old man doing paperwork behind a desk. This is the scene that Naruto comes into. Well, teleported into anyway. The Hokage looked up when he sensed that someone was coming into his office via Shunshin no Jutsu. He recognized the chakra signature anywhere. It was Naruto all right. If it were anyone else, he would have just kept doing paperwork, but he knew about Naruto's nickname. Everyone did, and everyone wanted to see his new techniques too, the Hokage included. Looking up and seeing a fire start on the floor, the Hokage was shocked when the fire grows into a pillar about 5 feet tall, then goes back down to the floor, disappearing. He was used to seeing Naruto do things like this, so he managed to keep his composure. Ah, what can I do for you, Fox? That was Naruto's Anbu code name, Fox. Each Anbu had a mask and a code name, that way no one can tell who you are. Naruto's mask matched his code name. You wanted to see me right when I got back, Hokage-sama. Ah yes, I know. Can you take a seat? This may take a while, Fox. Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto took his seat right in front of Sarutobi's desk and watched as he filled his pipe with tobacco and then lit it. He took a puff of smoke and then let it out with a content sigh. I called you, Fox, because I am going to be taking you out of the Anbu. Okay, here it comes. 5.4.3.2.1. What, may I know why you are doing this, Hokage-sama? Of course you can, Fox. As you know, you have a very impressive track record. He pulled out a folder from in his drawer and then held it up so he could read it. Your record states that you graduated the academy at 6 years old, becoming the earliest to ever graduate from the academy. Then at the age of 8 you made it to Chunin, then at 10 you joined the Anbu, again breaking the old record. At 11 you became a captain of a team of Anbu, breaking yet another record. Now you are 13 years old. You have completed 20 D rank missions, 32 C rank missions, 12 B rank missions, 33 A rank missions, and 18 S rank missions. You have never had any failures and you have never lost a comrade in battle. That is a very good record, even for someone twice as old as you are. He let that information sink into Naruto's head, and when Naruto couldn't stand the wait any longer, the blonde spoke up. I already know that, Hokage-sama. So why are you taking me out of the Anbu? I could be of great use to the village? Ah, Fox, calm down a little. This is not the end of the world and I have a very good reason to take you out of the Anbu. That is because you have no experience with people your age whatsoever. You may be a good shinobi, but you don't know how to have fun and act around people your own age. You need to spend some time with your own age group, or at least around your own age group. That is why I am taking you off the Anbu squad. Now please take off your mask. From this moment on you are no longer an Anbu captain but a Junin of this village. After he said this, Naruto looked him straight in the eye and could see that he was completely serious and there was no way that he was going to be able to get out of this with arguing. The Hokage had made up his mind, so Naruto reluctantly took off his mask and let his face be shown. He had golden blonde hair just like the fourth, bright blue eyes and a soft face that was pretty well chiseled for the age of 13. After removing his mask, he put it into the pouch on his waist and stood for his next orders. Thank you for seeing it my way, Naruto-kun. You will thank me for this later. Besides, being a Junin isn't that bad. Go back to Anbu HQ and tell your team that you have been made a Junin and they will have a new team leader. Also grab anything you want there and bring it to your house. That is all. You are dismissed. Naruto was just about to shunshin out of the office when he heard him say, Oh, before I forget, there is a Junin meeting in 2 days' time. Make sure you are there, Naruto-kun. Hi, Hokage-sama. With that, Naruto shunshin Ed out of his office, towards Anbu HQ to inform his team and get his things. The Hokage let out a sigh as he disappeared the same way he came, with the fire shunshin he created. He could only shake his head and go back to the one thing that all cages could never beat, the evil of the world, paperwork. 2 days later, all of the Junins of the village were in the Hokage's tower waiting for 2 more people to show up. Those 2 were the Hokage and one newly appointed Junin that they were informed about, but weren't given the name of. Surprisingly, even Hitaki Kakashi was on time. You see, he got over his lateness when he spoke with Namikaze Naruto. No one knows what they talked about, but he always showed up on time when it came to orders from the Hokage or important events. Unfortunately, that didn't stop his lateness completely. You see, he is still late quite often to anything that is not on the orders of the Hokage. Each of the Junins was talking in their own little groups, when suddenly a puddle began forming on the floor. That puddle grew to about 3 feet wide. Every Junin tensed and prepared for a battle. Then that puddle started to move upward and it formed the shape of a man, until the water that was covering the man slid off of him and back to the puddle he was standing in. Amazingly, the water disappeared, not even leaving a drop. Naruto-kun. Always with your fancy entries. Your flames of youth are most impressive. That was the shout of one Maida Guy, the green beast of Konoha. Everyone in the room's sweat dropped at that comment and went back to talking with each other. Naruto walked toward Guy and looked him over real quick. He had on the most disgusting-looking green spandex suit that anyone on the planet could ever have. He had orange leg warmers on both legs with normal shinobi boots. His head was another freak show. He had bowl-cut hair with the biggest eyebrows you have ever seen. For God's sakes, they look alive. Hello to you, to Guy-san. He turned towards the others and gave each a nod. Kakashi-san, Kurenai-san, Asuma-sensei. They greeted him likewise. So you have finally made Junin. I was wondering when you would quit Anbu and become a Junin. Asuma said with a pat on the shoulder. It was not my choice, Asuma-sensei. Hokage-sama made me leave Anbu. He said he had his reasons and that I would find out those reasons today. Ah, I see. Well, I'll tell ya this. Being Junin isn't that bad, you'll like it a lot, Asuma replied. Yeah, we'll see. Naruto seriously had a lot of doubts. Naruto-kun, trust me, it's not that bad, Kurenai said with a reassuring smile on her face. She is right, Naruto-kun. You will love being a Junin. Again half the room's sweat dropped. Yes, I'm sure you guys are right, Naruto said while putting his hand behind his head and rubbing it. After that it was normal talk about this and that, until the Hokage walked in and everyone became quiet. Sarutobi went over to his desk and then sat down. He then put some tobacco into his pipe and lit it before looking at everyone. Well, I'm glad you're all here. We have some things to discuss today. The first would be the incident that happened yesterday involving Mizuki. I am happy to say that he failed in his theft and was brought down by Naruto here. Here he points in Naruto's direction, then continues. He stole the scroll of sealing in the hopes of gaining power. He was discovered and we sent search parties after him. Amino Iruka, a Chunin and Namikaze Naruto, a Junin, successfully found him, defeated him and brought back the scroll. After that was said, he talked about some other stuff involving village security and then went on to other things. During this all, Naruto was remembering what happened last night. The night before, all of the village's Chunin were out looking for the traitor Mizuki and were having no luck in finding him. Iruka was in hot pursuit of him at that time. Mizuki was running through the forest when suddenly there was a volley of shuriken that came at him that he was forced to dodge or be killed. So he jumped down to the forest floor and watched as Iruka landed in front of him. Mizuki. What are you doing? Are you betraying the village? Iruka yelled. Ha 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 ha. Aw man, you're just the person I was hoping to run into. I have always wanted to kill you, and yes, I am betraying this worthless village of yours. What? I won't let you get out of this village with that scroll, Mizuki. Iruka responded in confusion that turned into anger, to think that a fellow Leaf Nin would try to betray them. As if you could stop me, Mizuki responded with a scowl. With that they ran at each other. Mizuki pulled out a Fuma Shuriken, very big shuriken, and tossed it at Iruka, while Iruka pulled out some kunai and launched them at the incoming Fuma Shuriken. The kunai hit the Fuma Shuriken and deflected it enough to make it fly harmlessly past him. The two were just about to charge each other again, when a single kunai landed in between them. They both turned to see none other than Namikaze Naruto. Now what are you two doing out here this late sparring? More importantly, why do you have my father's forbidden scroll, Mizuki? Naruto knew what was going on but decided to play along anyway, for the hell of it. Naruto. We have to stop him. He stole the forbidden scroll of seals and plans to leave Konoha with it. Iruka yelled, getting Naruto's attention. Naruto looked at Iruka and could tell he was telling the truth, so he then turned back to Mizuki. Is this true, Mizuki? You wouldn't steal my father's scroll and then try to leave with it, would you? This was said with an all too sweet and quiet voice that sent chills down both Iruka's and Mizuki's spines. Yeah, that's right. Why? You won't be able to stop me either. I'll take this scroll and... He stopped there because he reached behind him where the scroll was supposed to be, but he noticed that there was just a log there. He looked back at Naruto and found that he was leaning on the scroll up in the tree. How D? Did Y? U, G. Get T, the S. Scroll? He asked with a scared to crap voice. If he can get the scroll from me and I didn't even notice, how the hell am I supposed to beat him? He thought to himself while taking steps backwards. Well, that is quite simple actually, but seeing as you won't be awake for a while, I don't see why I should tell you. With that, Naruto tossed the scroll of seals down to Iruka, who caught it in his arms. Then he jumped down from the trees and started to walk up to Mizuki. Mizuki kept taking steps away from Naruto until he got so nervous that he just spun around and started to run. He got 2 steps before he saw Naruto appear in front of him and was punched in the gut, making him double over in pain and lack of air. The last thing he felt was a pain in his neck before darkness claimed him. Well, that's taken care of. Shall we take him and the scroll back to Konoha? I'm sure the Hokage would want to know that this problem has been taken care of. Naruto asked a stunned Iruka. I didn't even see him move, incredible. The Chunin thought to himself. He was only able to nod dumbly to the question and started to walk back to Konoha with Naruto. Back to the present in the Junin meeting. Now, onto the final topic for today. Here many perked up because they wanted to get out of the damn meeting. Sarutobi continued on. As many of you might already know, we have just had the Genin graduation exams and teams are ready to be trained by Junin senseis. You all know that we need good teachers, this year especially, because of the amount of talent we have. We have many that are from clans and some that aren't but still have enormous potential to be great, so anyone that wishes to be a Junin sensei, please take a step forward. With that 9 people stepped forward, among them were Hitaki Kakashi, Yuhi Kurenai, and Sarutobi Asuma. Very well, we have enough Junins to take the teams. Now already I, along with the Chunin teachers who taught this class, have made the teams. So now it is just up to you on who you want to teach. With that, the 9 Junins started to look over the teams and after a little arguing they came out with who they wanted. Alright, I see that you have gotten the teams chosen amongst yourselves, let's hear who got who, the Hokage said. I, Hitaki Kakashi will take Team 7. This team is Haruno Sakura, Sai, and Uchiha Sasuke. I, Yuhi Kurenai will take Team 8, Aburame Shino, Hyuga Hinata, and Yamanaka Ino. I, Sarutobi Asuma will take Team 10. That would be Inuzuka Kiba, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. Then the other 6 Junin went their turn on saying what team they would take and then who was in it. After all was said and done, everyone was expecting the third to end the meeting but it seemed he had a little surprise. Very good choices, I like them all but one team. Here many were startled. The teams looked really good in their eyes. Who would that be, Hokage-sama? Some random Junin asked. That was what I was about to tell you, the team consisting of Inuzuka Kiba, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. The team itself is fine, but their sensei is not. What? Asuma had narrowed his eyes at his father at this point. But Hokage-sama, what is wrong with me teaching these kids? I think I would make a great teacher. Asuma practically yelled at his father in barely restrained anger. Now Asuma, I don't mean anything bad by this, and I am very well aware that you could teach them. Your example was set in how well you taught Naruto, he turned out great, but the fact is I want someone else to do it. That someone is you, Namikaze Naruto. Everyone in the room suddenly felt the room temperature drop by a few degrees. They turned their head, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. The team itself is fine, but their sensei is not. What? Asuma had narrowed his eyes at his father at this point. But Hokage-sama, what is wrong with me teaching these kids? I think I would make a great teacher. Asuma practically yelled at his father in barely restrained anger. Now Asuma, I don't mean anything bad by this, and I am very well aware that you could teach them. Your example was set in how well you taught Naruto, he turned out great, but the fact is I want someone else to do it. That someone is you, Namikaze Naruto. Everyone in the room suddenly felt the room temperature drop by a few degrees. They turned their heads to the one that was emitting the chilling felling, Naruto. What do you mean that I'll be teaching these brats, Hokage-sama? You and Asuma-sensei said so yourselves, that he could do it, so let him. Naruto said this in a way that made some of the people's spines tingle. No Naruto, you will be the one that teaches them. Remember the conversation we had 2 days ago? This is what I was talking about. Sarutobi replied with a fixed gaze at Naruto. But Hokage-sama, you know Asuma would. Here he was cut off by a raise of the hand indicating the Hokage wanted silence. Everyone knew to shut their mouths when he did this. Naruto, this is not up for discussion, you will be taking this team, do I make myself clear? Sarutobi said this in a very stern voice that gave no room for argument whatsoever. After several seconds of glaring, staring at each other, Naruto finally relented because he saw that there was no way to get out of this. Hi, Hokage-sama, he replied. With that out of the way, Sarutobi brought back his smile and nodded his head. Very well, the meeting is adjourned. You are all dismissed. Everyone was about to turn and walk out the door when they heard lightning crackle and they all stiffened, ready for a fight, again. All they saw was that Naruto was emitting the lightning. This happened for a few, brief seconds, before it completely covered him, before it collapsed on itself and Naruto was gone. Everyone was silent for a few seconds, wondering if what they had seen was real or not, until someone broke the silence.
Well, damn, that was freaking awesome. How does he keep coming up with these things? Some random Junin asked.
Everyone had to agree with that. To use lightning as a means to teleport is just sweet.
Yash, Naruto's flames of youth burn brightly. They are getting better and better every day. I will not be left behind. I will train harder than ever to prove my own flames of youth burn just as brightly as Naruto's. Everyone's sweat dropped at Guy's antics.
With that done, everyone else left the Hokage's tower and left one old man trying all he could to get the green beast of Konoha out of his office.
Ino pig, get out of my way. I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun. That was the shout of a girl with pink hair that went down to her mid-back.
Who are you calling pig? Forehead girl. Besides, I'm sitting next to Sasuke-kun. That was the shout of a girl in blonde hair that was in a ponytail that also went down to her mid-back.
Piff, troublesome women. What did you say? Both girls shout out at the kid that just spoke up. He had black hair that was tied into a ponytail. He had the head of a pineapple.
Will you both just shut up? God. You're hurting my ears? That was a boy with brown hair that had a dog in his shirt. The yelling continued to go on until the door opened up and in came the sensei. Of course everyone in the room couldn't care less because they were at each other's throats. Of course some were being good and just sat there and minded their own business. The sensei walked over to the middle of the front of the class and put some papers down. He looked up and couldn't help but sweat drop at the children. They were acting like brats and they wanted to be shinobi. Ahem. That got no reaction out of all the girls in the room. The boys though did notice and stopped their talking with each other like normal people and sat at their seats and waited for their sensei to continue. Ahem. Still no reaction out of half the class. Cough. Nothing. Will you shut up and sit down in your seats? That got their attention. Good, now that I have your undivided attention, I can start your last lesson and you will then be placed into your teams. With that the room fell silent and the sensei started his last lesson. Elsewhere in the town of Konoha, everyone in the room sweat dropped at what they just witnessed. There were 4 people in the room. They were all standing around a crystal ball that had a picture of the classroom where the children just got yelled at. Damn, I haven't seen that jutsu for years. What was it again? The big-headed evil face jutsu or something like that he called it? I can't remember. A guy with blonde hair stated. Yes, Naruto-kun. That's exactly right. Another person replied to his statement. Well, it looks like Iruka-sensei is doing well, the blonde replied. Yes, well, thanks to you he is. If you didn't show up 2 nights ago it could have turned out completely different, Naruto-kun. No need to thank me, Hokage-sama. It is my job after all. The blonde, also known as Naruto, said to their Hokage. Tish, it also helps that he stole your family scroll too, doesn't it, Naruto? One of the others asked. Yeah, well, you know how it is, Kakashi. It wouldn't really matter even if he did get away with it though. No one but me can open it. Very true, Naruto-kun. The Hokage piped in. Say, Hokage-sama. Why is it that the scroll is in the tower in the first place? Shouldn't it be in Naruto-kun's library? After all, it is safer there. That was the voice of Yuhi Kurenai. Yes, you are right, Kurenai. The reason it was at the tower is because I was adding another jutsu to the scroll. I left it in the scroll library for Naruto to pick up later. When he found it missing he went and asked me where I put it or if I was done yet. I was naturally surprised that the scroll wasn't there. We looked at the security tape and found that Mizuki stole it. I ordered him found and brought back by any means necessary. Naruto here went out and looked for it also. He just happened to find it with Iruka and you all know what happened after that. The old man finished. They all nodded. Now back on topic. I have brought you all here so you can get a little glimpse of your teams before you meet them. You know who they are by their profile that each of you have been handed. Take a look. All 3 of the Junins did as told and watched as the student listened intently to Iruka. Back in the classroom, now I will name each team and their sensei. Everyone leaned forward and listened intently to what would be said. Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4, Team 5, Team 6, Team 7 will be Sai, Haruno Sakura. Sakura bangs her head on her desk saying, why me, over and over again. Ino smirks and says, "Huh, looks like you got paired with Psy Forehead Girl." "Shut up, Ino pig." Iruka finishes the team off with, "And Uchiha Sasuke. Your Junin instructor is Hitaki Kakashi."
Ino is dumbstruck and yells saying it's not fair or some crap like that. While Sakura is cheering that she has her Sasuke-kun on her team. Sasuke himself just sits there with his hands folded under chin looking passive. No one knows, but on the inside he is banging his head against a wall crying that life isn't fair. Damn, stuck with a fangirl and the smart ass. Just great. They better not get in my way, he thought to himself. Iruka continues on through the yelling. The next team is Team 8, which will consist of Yamanaka Ino, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino. Your Junin sensei will be Yuhi Kurenai. Shino just nodded. Hinata nodded as well, but Ino was complaining that she should be on Sasuke's team, not Sakura. Iruka just ignored them and continued on to the next team. Team 10 will consist of Inuzuka Kiba, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. Your Junin sensei will be.
He stopped there and just stared at the paper. Everyone looked at him wondering what caught his attention. Being loud like she was, Sakura decided to ask what was wrong. "Sensei. What's wrong?" "Oh, sorry about that. Just lost in memory there for a minute, that is all." "Now where was I?" "Ah yes. That's right. Team 10's Junin sensei will be Namikaze Naruto." That got a lot of talk throughout the class. It was no secret that the last Namikaze was strong and that he was famous everywhere. Not just in the Fire Country either. They had learned a lot about him and his father in class. He was considered a genius amongst all geniuses. "Right. Quite down class. Now for the last two teams," he said those and then told them a great speech about how you should act as a shinobi and never give up in life and to be the best you can be. After that was done, he was just about to excuse them for lunch when a hand shot up into the air. "Yes. What is it, Sakura?" Iruka asked. "Can you tell us more about Namikaze-sama? We only know a little about him." Everyone in the class looked eagerly at their sensei for this answer. With a sigh of defeat, he looked up to his students and knew he wouldn't get away with not telling them something, so he reluctantly did so. "I guess you don't know a lot about him, do you? Can any of you tell me what you do know about him?" Sakura, being the smartest of the class, started it off. "Well, I know that he is Yondaime-sama's son. He is supposed to be really strong and he graduated the academy at a really young age. He is now a Junin from what you have just told us." "Good, Sakura. Does anyone else know anything about him?" Shikamaru sighed. "Troublesome. But yes, I know some things about him too. He has earned a nickname throughout Konoha as Shunshin no Namikaze. He has created over 2 new Shunshins unique to only him. I haven't seen any of them myself, but from what I have been told by my parents is that they are quite the sight to see." "That is mostly right, Shikamaru. Your info must be a little old though, because the last I heard he created 5 new Shunshins." Iruka corrected and gained a collective gasp that was heard throughout the classroom. The Shunshins were said to be really hard to create. But he made 5. "Is there anything else you know about him?" He looked around the class and found that no one else was going to speak, so he decided to stun them a little and at the same time bring them down a peg or two, or a couple million, he added as an afterthought. "No one else knows anything about Namikaze-sama. Well, I guess that I can tell you a little more about him then. Let's see, his full name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. He took both his father's and mother's names. He graduated at the age of 6 years old from the academy." Here everyone in the classroom gasped at him. 6. You have got to be lying. That's impossible, isn't it? Kiba all but yelled. "No, Kiba. I was his teacher then. He graduated at the age of only 6. He is the youngest person to ever graduate from the academy in all of Konoha history. Even Uchiha Itachi graduated younger than him." Again people were speechless. But here Sasuke balls his fists in anger. It was no secret to anyone in Konoha that Sasuke's older brother, Uchiha Itachi, killed his entire clan. The Uchiha clan, the second noblest clan in Konoha. No one knows why he did it, but he did. He left no survivors except for his younger brother. But he didn't leave him unharmed. He left him emotionally distressed. He made Sasuke live through the whole clan massacre again by the use of the Mangekyo Sharingan and then proceeded to torture him mentally. Iruka continued on. "Then he was put under a sensei just like all of you. 2 years later he was promoted to the rank of Chunin at the age of 8.
Then at the age of 10 he joined the Anbu. Again this is a record he broke. A year later he was promoted to that of Anbu captain at the age of 11. He again broke the old record of 13 set by Uchiha Itachi, and made it 11 to be the youngest Anbu captain ever to come out of Konoha. Now he is 13 years old and is a Junin sensei.
The classroom was completely awestruck. Namikaze Naruto broke 3 records of graduating or being promoted. That's incredible. Most had to agree with Kiba's outburst. It was indeed very incredible. Now you all know a little about Namikaze-sama. I hope that gave you everything you wanted to know. Now it is time for lunch. Please return here afterwards to meet your Junin sensei. You're all dismissed. Iruka watched all of them walk out of there in half a daze. He had to suppress a smirk. That defiantly brought them down a peg or a million. Elsewhere, at the Hokage's tower the crystal ball just ended the picture due to the Hokage ending chakra connection. All the Junins stood up straight and looked at the Hokage. Sarutobi himself just grabbed his pipe, put some tobacco into it and lit it. And then started to puff some here and there. Well, what do you 3 think? He asked. I for one have to say sorry to you too. Naruto said, gesturing towards Kakashi and Kurenai. He continued on though.
Kiba looks and acts brash for a shinobi something, I'll have to fix that. Choji is strong from what his profile says but I will have to work on his speed. And finally Shikamaru looks lazy as hell. Naruto said this all with a straight face on.
Kurenai decided to go next. My students look okay. Ino looks like a fangirl and will have to be put through some very hard lessons to get her to act like a shinobi. Shino I couldn't really tell. But then again all Aburames are like that. Finally Hinata looks like she has some major confidence problems. Kakashi was still reading his little orange book and not paying attention at all, when Kurenai elbowed him in the ribs quite hard. It surely would have left a bruise if he was not a shinobi. Huh. The others in the room just sweat drop at this and stare at him expectantly. He eventually catches on. Ah. Yes. You want my opinion, right, Hokage-sama? Well, the Sai kid looks like a normal shinobi to me. The only weird thing about him is he has no last name. He shrugs his shoulders here and continues. Sakura looks like a fangirl with little to no talent at all. Sasuke looks like he broods all day and might be gay, but I can't be sure about that one till I spend some time with my team. Kurenai looks at him weirdly for a second then asks, why do you think he is gay? The other men in the room just look at her with a deadpan look on their face. It's Naruto that answers. How can he not be gay? Come on. He has girls practically throwing themselves at him and all he did was sit there and ignore them. You think he would at least talk to them? There is no way he is not gay. He nodded his head up and down afterwards. So did the others in the room. They all agreed with Naruto on this one. Well, thank you for your opinions. You are to go and meet your teams in 40 minutes. You are all now Junin instructors. Lead your teams well and teach them well. They are under your wing now. You are all dismissed. The Hokage ended his little speech. Wind started to rotate around Naruto suddenly. Then it picked up speed and became visible to the human eye. It rotated all around him, completely cutting off his form from view. It looked like a tornado, except this was shaped like a cylinder instead of an upside-down cone. Then it just disappeared and Naruto was gone with it. The others looked and could only sigh and leave in their way. Kakashi and Kurenai both just popped out of the office in a cloud of smoke, leaving Sarutobi to do some more paperwork. God, paperwork will be the end of me, I swear it, Sarutobi thought to himself as he grabbed the first one and went to work on the never-ending pile of evil incarnate. Hour later, the classroom was active with talk about this and that. They were talking amongst each other about this and that. Then there were footsteps on the outside of the door. Everyone turned to the door waiting to see who was there. The door slid open and in walked a woman with black hair that was shoulder length and would curl slightly at the end, giving it a look of slight wildness. She had red eyes that stood out vastly. Her forehead protector was on her forehead. She had a weird dress sort of thing. It was more like bandages that were black and white, but they were a dress sort of thing. It was made to have easy maneuverability. She had on normal shinobi sandals and the dress went down to her mid-thighs. And then she had bandages on her hands that went to just before her elbows. The next person to walk in was a man that was a cyclops. The reason was because he only had one eye. The other one, the left eye, was covered up by his hite 8 or forehead protector.
He had silver hair that spiked upwards and slightly forwards. He had a mask that covered his face. It went from his neck all the way up to and over his nose. He had on your standard Junin vest that was green in color and had 6 pockets for scrolls and such in the front. He had blue ninja pants with bandages wrapping his ankles. He had his kunai and shuriken pouch on his left leg. Each hand had gloves on with a metal back on them. He also had blue ninja sandals.
The last person was rather short for a Junin. He was about 5 feet 4 inches. He had spiky blonde hair that was sticking up and all over the place. It was like it couldn't be controlled. It went slightly back down his neck about 2 inches or so. He had sky blue eyes that looked like they were a bottomless pit. He had on your classic Junin vest except that his was black instead of green. It also had 6 pockets for storing scrolls in it. He had blue ninja pants, with a shuriken and kunai pouch on each leg. His sandals were also blue. Ah, the Junin instructors are here. Class quiet down so you may hear your team being called. Team 10. Meet me at training ground 19 in 30 minutes. With that said, Naruto disappeared in a burst of flames from the feet up then down again. Then he was gone. Damn. That was so awesome. I already like this guy. Let's go Akamaru. With that he got up and headed for the door. Tech. Troublesome. Come on Choji, we better get going. With that said, Shikamaru and Choji stood up and followed Kiba out the door.
Well, Team 8, follow me please. Kurenai walked out the door and Ino, Shino, and Hinata followed. Team 7, meet me on the roof. With that Kakashi disappeared in a poof of smoke. Sai, Sasuke, and Sakura followed shortly afterwards. About 25 minutes later at Training Area 19 we find Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba walking into the training field. They noticed that in the middle of the field is their new sensei too.
Good, you're early. I like that in people. Well, let's get started, shall we? Each one of you sit down in front of me and tell me a little bit about yourselves.
They each sat down and Kiba asked, what do you want to know about a sensei?
Well, for starters you can call me Naruto Sensei, or Naruto Senpai. Either one will work for me. Secondly, I'd like to know your likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams for the future, things like that. Can you go first so we know some more about you? Kiba asked again. Well, let's see. My name is Namikaze Naruto. I have many things I like. One is ramen, which is my favorite food. I don't feel like telling you my other likes. My dislikes are people who judge you by your name, not by who you are. Hobbies are training and learning new things. My dream for the future is to one day surpass my dad in being a shinobi. That's everything about me that you'll get to know for now. Since you asked, you can go first, he said while pointing to the boy with the dog. Alright. My name is Inuzuka Kiba. This here is my companion and partner Akamaru. My likes are playing with Akamaru, and learning new techniques. My dislikes are people who treat animals badly. Hobbies are training and teaching Akamaru new tricks and techniques. Dreams for the future are to one day be the head of my clan. Good, thank you Kiba. Next is you lazy. Naruto pointed to the one lying on the ground watching the clouds. The one lying down sat up and looked at their sensei. Piff. This is so troublesome, but fine. My name is Nara Shikamaru. My likes are hanging out with my friends, and playing shogi and go. My dislikes are loud people. Hobbies are watching clouds. Dreams for the future are to one day become an average shinobi, with a wife, 2 kids. First a girl, then a boy. Then die of old age after I see my grandkids. Thank you Shikamaru. That was very interesting. You say you like shogi and go, right? He gets a nod from Shikamaru. Well, I would love to play you in a game. The third Hokage and Asuma Sensei say I'm quite good. I'd like to see how you fare. I look forward to that. I haven't had a challenge in quite a while, Shikamaru said with a note of acknowledgement. Well, you will get that game sometime. Now for the last one. You, he said pointing to Choji. My name is Akamichi Choji. My likes are eating and spending time with my friends. My dislikes are when people make fun of my weight. My hobbies are spending time with my friends, training, and eating. My dream for the future is to become strong and one day own my own restaurant here in Konoha. Well, I got a lazy bum, a kid with his dog, and a person that likes to eat. I have a lot of work cut out for me, Naruto thought to himself. Well, you each have your own unique traits. That is good. You will need them for what I have planned for you. But before we can do that, I have to give you a test to see if you can become genin or not. Tech, troublesome. Shikamaru mumbled under his breath. What do you mean become genin? We already are genin, Kiba said harshly. Do you really want to know, or do you just want me to give you your test? They each looked at him with a look clearly saying they wanted to know. Well, of all the graduates that came out of the academy, only 9 people will pass. If you suck at math, then that would mean that you only have a 33% chance of passing. So are you glad you asked now? This was said with an evil little smirk on his face. Each one of the 3 paled. They only had a 33% chance of passing. They each had the same thought. Damn it. This is so unfair. Well, let's take that test right now, why don't we? I'm supposed to give you till tomorrow to take it, but I really don't want to wait that long. So for the test, all you have to do is take one of these 2 bells from me. Whoever gets a bell passes. If you don't get a bell, you fail and go back to the academy for another year of training. Naruto had stood up during this time, and so did his 3 students. They each looked ready for anything. Well, let's get this started. You have until 6 to get them. When this timer goes off, you will come back here regardless of whether you got a bell or not. They each looked at the timer, and though at the same time, what the hell, where the hell did he get that timer? You know what to do. Oh, and you better come at me with the intent to kill me, because if you don't, you will fail miserably. You can start in 3, 2, 1, go. Each of the genin to be jumped off into the trees surrounding the clearing. They hide well. Although not well enough. I know where each of them are still. But that is to be expected. Well, they each got the art of hiding down well. Now for the other parts of being a ninja, Naruto thought to himself. With that last though in mind, he walked over to the middle of the clearing and sat down and started to meditate. He sat cross-legged with his arms resting on his knees and eyes closed. Yes, this is my chance. He has let down his guard completely, thought Kiba. With that he prepared 6 shuriken and threw them at their prone sensei. They soared through the air at impressive speeds, cutting the air while as went. They were just about to hit when their sensei's right hand shot out and caught them all on his fingers like they were nothing. They spun on his fingers for a few seconds before they stopped, and then he pocketed them in his pouch. This was all done with him not moving a muscle except his arm, and his eyes stayed closed too. With his first attempt at winning the fight gone, he charged out of the bushes head first. He raised a fist to hit him in the head and swung when it was caught in Naruto's own hand. He tried to kick him next, but Naruto simply leaned his head to the side and then jerked on Kiba's arm that he still held and then pushed him back with enough force to make him slide back 10 feet. When Kiba regained his footing, he looked up and saw that his sensei was standing before him looking at him. First lesson, Taijutsu, the art of hand-to-hand combat. Come. And so the fight was back on. Kiba again charged in head first, only to be delivered a harsh punch to the stomach for his efforts. He bent over and landed on his knees trying to regain his breath. Naruto walked away about 10 feet, then turned to look at him again and said, "First things first. Never attack a person head-on without a plan first. You will only end up like you have right now." Kiba snarled and called Akamaru over and tossed him a food pill and then ate one himself. He crouched low to the ground so he was on his hands and feet, and then his nails lengthened. Shikyaku no Jutsu. 4 legs technique, Kiba snarled. "Get on, Akamaru." The dog did just that and jumped onto Kiba's back. Jujin Bunshin. Beast human clone. Akamaru on his back burst into smoke only to come out looking exactly like Kiba did. When the preparation was all done, Kiba yelled out, "Let's go, Akamaru." With that, both Kibas rushed forwards at least twice the speed they did beforehand. They both took a swipe at their sensei and both were dodged. They both went past him and turned around and tried again only to be dodged again and again. This continued until the Kibas got irritated and they stepped it up a notch. Gatsuga. Double piercing fang. Both Kibas started to spin super fast and then looked like 2 tornadoes of death coming at Naruto. But yet again they were all dodged, and then Naruto himself started to do some hand seals and slammed his hands on the ground after creating some distance from the attacking duo. Doden. Yomi Numa no Jutsu. Earth release swamp of the underworld. The earth turned into a swamp all around the area in front of Naruto. Both Kibas were in the air when the jutsu was done and were now coming down into the swamp. They didn't have time for a kawarimi, so they headed straight into the swamp head first. Within seconds they hit the swamp, and even faster, they were swallowed whole by the technique and disappeared underground. With both Kibas disappearing underground, Naruto ended the chakra supply and the ground hardened. Naruto did 4 more hand seals that were too quick to follow for either Shikamaru or Choji that were still hiding and watching, and then the earth swallowed him up whole. Not 3 seconds later, 1 Kiba's heads popped out of the ground and 1 dog's head popped out of the ground. Next, Naruto jumped out of the ground in front of Kiba. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Earth Release. Inner Decapitation Technique. So Kiba, did you learn your lesson? You can't beat me in taijutsu or ninjutsu. You have no chance of it. But good try nonetheless. You almost got a bell there at one time or another. With that he started to walk away. Hey, where you going? You can't just leave me here in the ground like this. Hey, I'm talking to you, Kiba yelled. Naruto stopped walking and tilted his head back so he could see him out of the corner of his eye. Actually, yes. I am going to leave you there. Have fun trying to get out. With that, Naruto leapt into the trees and out of sight. Shikamaru and Choji came out of hiding a little while later and walked up to the still struggling Kiba and Akamaru. Hey, need some help there, Kiba, Akamaru? Choji asked well-heartedly. Tish. This is so troublesome, but I've figured out the real meaning of this exam. Choji, who just undug Akamaru and started on Kiba, looked back at his best friend. Kiba did the same thing. Shikamaru, what do you mean by that? Choji asked him, clearly confused. Yeah man. What the hell, aren't we just supposed to get the bells? Kiba asked, bewildered too. Shikamaru just sighed and started to help dig out Kiba with Choji while he explained. No, the real purpose isn't to get the bells. Even if we did get the bells individually, we would still fail. Although I highly doubt that we could get the bells by ourselves. We would have to work as a team to even have a chance to get a bell. He left clues on what the true meaning of the test was. Firstly, there are only 2 bells, so no matter what, one of us will still fail. Then there's the fact that we were put on a 3-man cell. Then why right off the bat try and separate us? All genin cells are made up of 4 members, a junin and 3 genin. So I figured he purposely tried to separate us to make us fight each other and put us against each other so we would have to go back to the academy. With all of these facts, it only leads to one truth. And that is that we must work as a team. That is the true meaning of the test. Not the bells, but for us to work as a team. By the time Shikamaru was done talking, they had managed to get Kiba and Akamaru out of the ground. They each were standing now, cleaning themselves somewhat of the dirt that covered them. Well, if we have to work as a team to pass, then I'm all for it. Right, Akamaru? Kiba said while getting a bark as a reply for him. Akamaru. I'm with Kiba, Shikamaru. Let's work as a team, Choji piped in. Alright, here is what we'll do. Shikamaru pitched in and they all huddled together to form a plan to hopefully stop their sensei and try and get the bells. An hour later we find Naruto leaning against a tree thinking. Well, what do we have here? Are they working together? I wonder how they figured it out so quickly. Must have been Shikamaru. He did say that he played shogi and go. Well, doesn't matter. I want to see what they got in them. Out of nowhere Shrunken and Kunai come out of the trees heading straight towards the still prone Naruto. Naruto jumps to the side just as they were about to impale him. Baika no Jutsu. Moody size technique. He hears, then he sees Choji in the trees blow up into a big ball using his own body, and then each of his limbs goes into his ball-like body. Then he hears, Nikuden Sensha no Jutsu. Human bullet tank. Then Choji starts to spin and roll towards him. So he does know a few family jutsu. Well, this makes it more interesting, Naruto thought as he dodged the first few strikes by rolling or jumping out of the way. Then after a few more times he jumped straight up into the air. Now, Kiba thought. Suga. Piercing Fang. Again Kiba starts to spin like a tornado and came out of his hiding spot to attack their sensei together. Naruto saw Kiba out of the corner of his eye and could only think one thing. Shit. This is going to get hard. Naruto got hit with the Suga attack and suddenly puffed into a log that was completely torn to shreds. Naruto jumped out of the trees and looked at his students, and when they found him they charged him again with their respective attacks each. Naruto was dodging left and right and was slowly starting to worry. Damn it. I can't stop them without hurting them too severely, and if I do the old man will kill me. Add to that I'm being pushed backwards into the trees and I'll surely be hit in no time. Naruto was getting frantic. He looked for any way out but could only find one, and that was the trees. He knew if he went in there he would have limited maneuverability, but hopefully so would Kiba and Choji. At least he hoped so. Finally Kiba and Choji backed him up to a tree and they both grinned, although no one could see it. Both thought the same thing. The plan is working perfectly. Now we just have to hope that Shikamaru does his part. And Shikamaru did do his part. The second Naruto got within 20 feet of the forest, there was a shadow racing towards him. He noticed it and jumped upwards to avoid it, but that only led him to being able to barely manage to dodge Kiba's Suga. When he started to fall again, he saw Choji waiting for him. He landed on the ground and had to jump out of the way of the living human tank called Choji the second he touched ground. He jumped backwards and landed only to find he couldn't move. He looked down by moving his eyes downwards because his body and neck of his wouldn't respond. What he saw was the shadow from earlier attached to him. Kageme no Jutsu success. Shadow imitation technique, he heard. He looked forward and saw Shikamaru standing there with his own shadow extended to his. Then both Kiba and Choji came out of their attacks and charged forward to get the bell. They got them easily because Naruto couldn't move. They all stood by each other and smiled at their sensei proudly. They slapped hands together and said good job to each other. They looked at their sensei and they saw him smiling too. Well, you guys did well, but not good enough, I'm afraid. You still failed to get the bells. Each one of the three looked at him like he had grown an extra head or something. What are you talking about? We got the bells right here. Look, Kiba said, holding up a stick. What? Where the hell is the bell? I just had it, he practically yelled. No wait, he did yell. They each looked at their sensei that still couldn't move because of the Kageme no Jutsu holding him still. Well, it's been fun. With that he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. What the hell was that? I thought you said that people couldn't use teleportation techniques when they were under that jutsu. Shikamaru. Choji asked his friend. Shikamaru replied just as confused as he was. They can't. I don't know what the hell he did. But it wasn't a teleportation technique that he just used. It was something else. They would have talked more, but they heard a bell ring in the distance. They each looked at each other and jogged to the clearing where they all started from. When they made it to the clearing, they saw their sensei leaning against another tree. They approached him and he opened his eyes to look at each of them individually. Well, in all accords they have passed my test. But why not screw with them a little? He thought as he was laughing on the inside like a maniac. Well, you each did well. You each managed to do something in this little test. Some more than others, but then again that doesn't really matter. You all failed in the end to get your objective, and that was these two bells that are on my hip. So for failing you will all go back to the academy for another year of training. After this was said, Naruto didn't have to wait long before one of them snapped and attacked him. It just so happened to be Kiba. We tried our best and this is what we get. With that shout, he charged Naruto. Before any of them knew what happened, Kiba was on the ground on his belly and Naruto was sitting on him, restraining him with one hand. You all know nothing about what it means to be shinobi. His voice was harsh and stern. Each one of the wannabe genin flinched at his tone. In the shinobi world, people die every day. This is not a game. Any one of us can die at any moment, at any time, during any mission. I will not have a bunch of kids going on missions that think this is all a game. For example, here he pulled out a kunai and put it against Kiba's throat. Choji, kill Shikamaru or I'll kill Kiba. Choji panicked and looked between everyone present with a look of fear. That is what can happen on a mission. A person gets captured and then you have to make an impossible decision that either way you are screwed. Naruto got up and put his kunai away. This is the real life of a shinobi. You have to make hard decisions every day. I will not have a bunch of brats on my team. You three did figure out the true meaning of this test. And that was teamwork. I'll give you credit for that. But you still need to grow up. I'll give you guys one more chance at beating me, but for Kiba's little attack on me just now, I really don't feel that generous to all of you. So I'm going to tie up Kiba, while you two can eat these snacks that I brought to gain some energy back. If either of you feed him, you will automatically be disqualified and be sent back to the academy. After you're done, untie him and come and try to get the bells again if you want to pass. You have 2 more hours. With that he tied up Kiba and started to walk away, but before he left he turned slightly back towards them. I make the rules. You follow them. If you don't, you will find yourself in a world of pain. With that he leapt into the trees, leaving 3 genin to shiver in slight fear at his words. Both Choji and Shikamaru ate their respective snacks in quiet, both thinking about what they just heard. Akamaru was sitting at his master's feet, winning slightly. Kiba was pouting about his loss and the reprimand he got from Naruto, when his stomach grumbled, indicating that he was hungry. Shikamaru and Choji looked at him, and then Shikamaru handed him some of his food. Kiba couldn't take it because he was tied up, but he looked at him questionably. Why are you giving me your food? If you do, you'll be punished, he said in bewilderment. Tish, it's troublesome, but if we're going to stand any chance at getting those bells from Naruto-sensei, then we all have to be at our best. Shikamaru responded with a shrug of the shoulders. He's right, Kiba. Besides, what kind of teammates would we be if we didn't look out for one another? Choji added in his 2 cents in. Thanks guys. This means a lot, but I can't move. Akamaru barked in agreement with him. I'll feed you some, don't worry Kiba, Choji said while he gave him some of his sandwich. Then out of nowhere the sky turned blackish, and then there was lightning in red color. Their sensei appeared before them with a look that promised death to anyone that opposes him. I told you not to feed him. Are you ready for the consequences? He stated as he went through some hand seals that were too quick for them to see. Choji managed to get up and get into a position, so that he was guarding his tied-up teammate, and so did Shikamaru. Choji somehow managed to stammer out a reply also. You said that we should work as a team. Yeah. That's right. You can't punish them for working as a team, Kiba put in. Akamaru barked as well, agree with them, being in front of his master. Oh, and what about you? Naruto said while looking at Shikamaru. If Kiba doesn't get food, then he won't be at his best and will suffer, and if he suffers, then that means the team suffers. So yeah, I'm with them also, he said. Oh, so you're disobeying my rules, are you? Well then I guess I have only one thing to say then. Each one of the genin were preparing for anything. You, pass? He said as the sky cleared up back to normal and he put on a smile. What, we pass? That's it? Choji asked confused. Naruto just kept smiling at them and then stood up and flicked a kunai at Kiba that cut the ropes that were holding him to the tree. Yep. That's it. You all passed my test. You actually surprised me though. I didn't think you would be able to figure out the real purpose of the test. But you did. From this day forward you are all genin of the leaf and will be a proud part of Team 10. They each celebrated in their own way. All right Akamaru, we did it, Kiba said, and Akamaru barked in reply. Choji took out a bag of chips and started to eat them, and Shikamaru mumbled troublesome under his breath. But he was grinning like his friend Choji and Kiba. Remember though, you may be genin now, but it only gets harder from here on out. Remember this well. It is a line from one of my friends. Those who break the rules are considered trash. But those who abandon their friends are even worse than trash. They each nodded in understanding, committing that line to memory. Well, good job Team 10. I am your official sensei from now on. We will start training and doing missions in 2 days' time. Tomorrow you have off to do whatever you want to do. Because in 2 days' time your training begins. Meet at the Ichiraku ramen restaurant at 6 am sharp. See you then. With that Naruto disappeared by the ground, lifting up and covering his body with a small amount of earth covering him everywhere. It was no thicker than an inch in any area though. When he was completely covered it crumbled around him from head to feet. When it was done it didn't even look like the ground was disturbed.